Hello and welcome to today's webinar on navigating the world of organic and non-GMO shopping. So we're going to explore how to make informed choices when shopping at the grocery store. So let's get started. All right. So why should we choose organic and non-GMO? What's the difference between the two? Before we really dive in, let's quickly revisit why choosing organic and non-GMO food really matters. So, organic food is grown or produced without chemical fertilizers, pesticides, or artificial agents. And a quick little side note, 100 years ago, all food was organic. Um, it is also free of GMOs or genetically modified organisms. Organic food can be more expensive than its non-organic conventional counterpart, and they're thought to be more nutritious and less likely to contain harmful residues from synthetic agents. So additionally, organic farming um, supports sustainable practices, which can protect natural resources and reduce pollution and help preserve a healthy environment for everyone. And if something is labeled organic, you can be assured that it is non-GMO. So the non-GMO project label that you see on food, it only verifies that a product doesn't contain GMOs, technically less than 0.9% GMOs, but this doesn't necessarily mean that it's organic, as some people are led to believe. The non-GMO label is sometimes used as a marketing tactic by food producers. For example, blueberries. They are by default a fruit that is never genetically modified. By sticking a non-GMO label on a package of blueberries, it automatically makes people think that it's suddenly much healthier and better than the package of the conventional ones. However, it still can have pesticide residues because it's not organic. So opting for organic supports sustainable farming practices and reduces our exposure to potentially harmful substances. Roundup weed killer is sprayed on a lot of conventional crops, 98% of conventional crops. This contains the chemical glyphosate. And a shocking statistic is 95% of Americans carry this chemical in their blood. Glyphosates are currently some of the most concerning pesticides, and it's essential to know the glyphosates didn't get used until 1978. It was initially used to chelate heavy metals from inside of pipes, but then it was discovered that it kills microbes. So the World Health Organization's International Agency for Research on Cancer has classified glyphosate as a probable human carcinogen. Glyphosates are the most widely used pesticide in the United States and are found in non-organic foods, including fresh produce and other crops. The problem is that you can't wash it off of your produce or cook it out. The chemical is in there. We eat it and then it becomes part of us. The chemical disrupts the endocrine system, that's your body's hormone production, and the gut microbiome, which in turn causes a whole slew of diseases ranging from skin issues, Alzheimer's, dementia, ADD, ADHD, food allergies and sensitivities, IBS, Crohn's disease, depression, etc., etc. And last but not least, cancer, namely non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So the company Bayer, who produces Roundup, they own Roundup. They recently committed to removing glyphosates from their products after several lawsuits resulted in the decision to remove them. Although Roundup with glyphosate is still available for commercial use, Bayer has announced that it stopped selling Roundup with glyphosate for residential use as of year 2023. So items or food items that are higher in glyphosates are things like breakfast cereals, oats, dehydrated potatoes, lentils, soybeans, almonds, corn, cotton, chickpeas, oats, wheat, canola, fruits and vegetables. And as of 2020, these foods here tested high for glyphosate. Lay's kettle cooked original potato chips, corn-based Doritos, Cool Ranch, Quaker Oats, Wheaties, oat-based Cheerios and regular Cheerios, cornflakes, and whole grain Cheez-Its, whole grain wheat bread, and many more. So let's make produce organic again. I love this hat. This is so cute. So how do we go about avoiding this chemical in our daily meals and snacks? It's not as tricky as you think. Not all foods are laced with this chemical. Some are way less likely to have this chemical hanging around. So check it out. Organic food, if it's certified organic, you can be in the clear. Organic food grown without synthetic pesticides, including glyphosates, are best. If your diet is 75 to 80% organic, you'll be good to go. I would say at minimum 75 to 80%. Fresh fruits and snacks, stick with whole, unprocessed fruits and veggies. They're less likely to have this chemical. Grains like quinoa, brown rice, steel-cut oats, they're less likely to have glyphosate in them than your typical processed grain products like cereals, breads, and crackers. Meat and dairy products from pasture-raised animals. Opt for meat from animals that are free-range, pasture, grass-fed, pasture-raised. They're less likely to have glyphosate in their systems compared to conventionally raised animals. Greenwashing, I'm sure you've heard this word. So let's imagine you're cruising through the grocery store and there's a product there on the shelf. It's got its label has leaves and trees and maybe a cute little farm on it, and the words natural plastered all over it. It may appear to be pretty eco-conscious, but that's where greenwashing comes into play. Companies might use buzzwords like organic, sustainable, or eco-friendly to make you think that their product is Mother Nature's best friend, but it's a bit of a dog and pony show. So the reality is the product may just have a hint of something green, but the rest is just business as usual. So there are genuinely really good companies out there committed to sustainable practices, but greenwashing is kind of like a sneak attack. It can mislead us into thinking we're making a green choice when in reality it's not environmentally friendly as we thought. So how can we avoid falling for the greenwashing trap? Check the labels. Look for certifications from legitimate organizations and dig a bit deeper into the company's practices. If something is a bit too green to be true, it's probably worth a closer look. Look for proof that your product is healthy. Products that are sustainably sourced will flaunt those certifications. So let's take a look at some labels. The USDA Organic Standard, it regulates how or agricultural products are grown, raised, handled, and processed. So products labeled with USDA Organic must contain at least 95% organic ingredients. And organic farmers must use approved methods such as crop rotation, composting, and biological pest control to maintain their soil fertility and control their pests. Organic crops cannot be grown with synthetic fertilizers, synthetic pesticides, or sewage sludge. And organic crops cannot be genetically engineered or irradiated. And the animals that they raise must eat only organically grown feed without animal byproducts and cannot be treated with synthetic hormones or antibiotics. And the grazing animals like cows must have access to outdoors and access to pasture for grazing. The Green Seal is an eco-friendly nonprofit that develops standards for companies to comply with to be labeled environmentally friendly. The non-GMO project verified seal just means that the food hasn't been genetically modified or doesn't contain bioengineered ingredients. But like I said before, sometimes it's used and abused as a marketing tactic. And lastly, here we have the glyphosate-free label. These items have been tested and have no glyphosate residue. It doesn't necessarily mean the food is grown organic or without other synthetic pesticides. It just indicates the item does not contain glyphosate. So selecting organic produce. When it comes to produce, look for the USDA organic label. Also consider local farmers markets for fresh seasonal produce. Sadly, it's a fact that very few Americans eat the recommended amount of fruits and vegetables every day. So as a result, we are missing out on the essential vitamins, minerals, and fiber and fruits, the fiber that fruit and vegetable contains that we need every day. According to the 2020 to 2025 dietary guidelines for Americans, the US population's average intake of fruits and vegetables falls far below the recommended amount. So only 1 in 10 adults meet the daily fruit and vegetable intake recommendation. So I know we can do better than that. So PLU codes, price lookup codes at the grocery store that you see on all the produce. Let's break it down and take a look at what those numbers mean on those labels. The PLU codes are numbers assigned to fruits and vegetables to help the checkout and inventory management process in the grocery store. Produce that has a 4-digit code beginning with a 3 or 4 means that the produce was conventionally grown with the possible use of pesticides. So for example, a conventionally grown banana is 4011. So fruits and vegetables grown organically will have a 5-digit code starting with the number 9. So an organically grown banana would have 94011, for example. And then genetically modified produce, which means it has genes from other organisms. Those stickers have 5 digits, but the codes begin with the number 8. And there are really only a handful of items to be that you'll find in the produce aisles that have been genetically modified, so it's not very common. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about the Dirty Dozen and Clean 15. This is a list of fruits and vegetables compiled by the Environmental Working Group, or the EWG, based on their pesticide residue levels. These lists are designed to help consumers make informed choices about which produce items to prioritize buying organic, and which ones may have a lower pesticide residues and considered safer to buy conventional. The Dirty Dozen list comprises fruits and vegetables that tend to have higher pesticide residues, and the EWG recommends considering organic options for these items whenever possible. The list changes slightly from year to year, but some examples of produce often found on the Dirty Dozen include strawberries, spinach, kale, nectarines, apples, grapes, peaches, cherries, pears, tomatoes, celery, and potatoes. And some surprising statistic here. Did you know that 99% of strawberries, conventionally grown, had detectable pesticide residues even after being washed? And 90% of conventional peaches tested positive for a potentially hormone-disrupting fungicide, and this may cause harm to the male reproductive system. The Clean 15 list, on the other hand, includes the fruits and vegetables that are they have a lower pesticide residue. These items are considered safer to purchase conventionally if buying organic isn't possible. So some examples from the Clean 15 list are avocados, sweet corn, pineapples, onions, papayas, asparagus. You can visit the ewg.org website for the most up-to-date list. They also have an app called EWG Healthy Living, where you can look up any kind of food item and see the EWG's rating of that item for ingredients, nutrition, and processed level. So generally speaking, I would say avoid eating most things in the grocery store in the center aisles. That is anything that isn't along the outside perimeter of the store. Why? Well, because preservatives and additives. So a lot of snack foods, processed foods, ultra processed foods will have those preservatives and additives that we don't need in our body. The further away you get from fresh whole food, the less healthy it becomes. And just because you're shopping at a healthy grocery store doesn't necessarily mean that all their items aren't going to contain additives and preservatives. So I've heard from some people that Whole Foods grocery store isn't so wholesome anymore. So just proceed with caution when you're shopping in the center aisles. Look for snacks labeled with the USDA organic seal. So these items in particular include organic nuts, popcorn, and fruit bars. So you make sure you look for that and it'll provide you with a healthier alternative for snacking. It's important to have plenty of healthy snacks around, especially when you're on the go, so you don't feel deprived and then you end up going through the fast food drive-through. So to wrap it up here, shopping for organic and non-GMO foods really involves making informed choices across the different categories of food. By looking for those labels and being able to read and understand them, and also it's important to support local and sustainable farming practices, we can really contribute to a healthier and more sustainable food system, and our society will be healthier in the end. So thank you for listening and happy conscious shopping.